So let's get to it. Welcome to SecT conference. Actually, this is my second time here in Stockholm, but I still love the city, I have to say. This is my first time presenting at any conference, so bear with me. This presentation is about a relatively new stealer malware that made the headlines not so long ago. And I just really want to give you a 30 minutes primer to it. Just a little bit about myself. I've joined the AV industry from a traditional blue team background. I worked as an IDS analyst in a SOC and also as a senior incident responder at a Fortune 50 CERT. I have keen interest in threat hunting, memory forensics, signature development, and I've been also learning reverse engineering for about a year now. I just had my first publication, and this talk is about that. And I also just released a small technical write-up about a malware family called Darkrat version 2 on my GitHub. So the goal of the talk is just to present findings of the past 4 to 5 months. I would like to detail some features and functionalities that the malware had. I want to touch briefly on dark and deep web economics. I also would like to outline some mistakes that the developers made, and just in overall, just to share technical analysis with you. Right, I've been advised to put this up, but this is really not that important, so we can go on. As you might have noticed, the malware's name is Baldr. I didn't really heard the name Baldr before, and I thought it would be interesting to investigate what inspired the malware developer to call his creation Baldr. So I obviously looked it up, and it turns out it's from Norse mythology. But not from the recent movies that contain some Norse mythology. So in those movies, Odin had 2 sons, Thor and Loki. But in reality, Odin had 4 sons. And one of them is called Baldr, and that's our topic today. We already know that there's another malware family called Vidar in the wild, which was also inspired from Norse mythology. Malware developers love Norse mythology for some reason. And I'm sure you can guess it's only a matter of time before a malware called Vali comes out. So let's talk about how the malware is distributed. We first picked up on Baldr when we were analyzing certain YouTube videos promoting cheat softwares and trainers for Counter-Strike Go or even for Apex Legends. These would often contain aims, wall hacks, ESPs. I'm sure you know these things. The YouTube video's description usually contains a malicious link that fetches the actual cheat software, but it is also bundled with Baldr. We also saw Baldr being distributed in Discord channels too, and we also found that Baldr was bundled with crypto wallet applications. Baldr was also sold on certain deep web forums. So this chart kind of demonstrates how the price of this simple stealer increased significantly throughout the past 4 to 5 months. The first version, as you can see, was sold for about $100. And each new version, each new iteration of the malware was cause for the distributor to raise the price. The seller and the distributor regularly promoted special discounts in order to attract more customers to buy the malware. And as you can see towards the end, Baldr capped around $150 and towards the end you'll see the sign Baldr sales closed down, and I will get to that later. The developer and the distributor did not exclusively gain income from the initial sales, but it turns out they were also reselling the stolen customer data that the stealer collected to further monetize the operation. So as you can see, stolen crypto wallet accounts went for $4 each. Game accounts went for $0.50. But if you add up all of these numbers, they go up to a significant amount. We were also trying to ascertain the impact of this malicious software by drawing a heat map. And it was interesting to see that it had the most impact in Singapore, Brazil, and Russia. But we can only guess why it is like that at the moment. It's not that clear. Since the developer is also Russian, it also made us curious why Russia is even on this map. But it looks like this was not exclusively meant for outside Russia, but the distributor was trying to cast a wide net and so that it would reach as many victims as possible. By the way, if you're curious, the data behind the map comes from VirusTotal, and basically I just channeled it through Elasticsearch and Kibana to give some visual representation. So digging through VirusTotal, we have found hundreds and thousands of victim logs, and by just simply using simple aggregations, we had the potential to highlight some key findings. For example, showing you the top 50 email accounts of stolen credentials. And obviously, it's no surprise that Gmail, Yahoo, or Hotmail were amongst the top stolen credentials. Yes, so Baldr was mostly distributed or delivered through two attack vectors. One of them is through CV 2018/2050. This is a vulnerability in one of the ACE archive library. So upon opening the ACE archive, the unpacking program, for example, WinAce, would only show you a decoy file, which is, in this case, as you can see, it's the help.txt file. But actually, there's another file inside that archive, but the unpacking program wouldn't show it to you. So, due to this vulnerability in the ACE archive library, upon unpacking the archive, the malicious P32 file, which you can see with the green marker, would drop onto a payload drop location silently. As you can see in the middle section, that's the location. And if you can read it, it says program/startup. So upon the next restart of that PC, the stealer would automatically run. So we can further enumerate the ACE archive file with a simple Python script. And this way, we now can see the payload too. The other attack vector was distributing Baldr through rigged RTF files. And using a simple script called rtfdump.py, we can easily extract the objects from the RTF file. And just right away, two of them stick out. It is object 7 and object 10. In object 7, there's a huge P32 executable, which is obviously already suspicious enough in an RTF file. But we still don't know what triggers the execution. The P32 payload is there, but we didn't really see why it's executing. So digging further into object 10, there's actually 6 streams in equation.freeObject. And on the right-hand side, on stream 5, we can see that there's an actual, some kind of magic going on there. So actually, this part that says cmd.exe, that part is actually a font name section. And essentially what it does, it just overflows that section. So essentially, again, it's just a Stack Overflow vulnerability. So just to sum it up, these are the functionalities that the malware had. First of all, it gathers lots of information from the victim PC. Secondly, it takes a screenshot of your desktop. It also steals credentials from all of your browsers, steals browser cache, autofill entries, and yes, banking card information too if you save those. It also gets the Telegram local cache, but dumps VPN clients as well, FTP clients, XMPP clients as well, and it also steals any crypto wallets. The malware had some pretty basic anti-analysis techniques. One of them is just having 9 layers of obfuscation. So it's very hard to make sense of the actual source code. The automatic deobfuscators don't really work on this one, so you have to go and manually find out what each and every class or function does, since the code is actually written in C#. To make the analysis even harder, the developer also introduced thread-based execution, which basically enables each of the previously listed functionalities to run simultaneously. As previously stated, Baldr has the capability to save a screenshot from your desktop, but while we analyzed the source code, we had spotted an interesting approach that was, I think it was trying to fool static detection rules, because the screenshot, it would get saved into screen.jpg, but the actual source code does not contain that string, rather a base64 encoded version of the string, which later gets decoded on the fly. And we think this might be an attempt to evade certain IDS or AV rules. So about information gathering, these are all the information that the malware is trying to fetch from your machine. Yes, it's quite an extensive list, and it's a very important list for fingerprinting or finding out everything about a certain victim. And yeah, I could say the developer didn't leave anything to chance. He wanted to get everything from your PC. And this is what the exfiltration phase looks like. So once the previously discussed threads are done, these are all the files that the Baldr stealer would gather up. And every information would go into different files and folders. All of these would get packaged up into a file called encrypted.zip, and it would be pushed out to a C2 server. For example, just some details, the passwords.log file that you can see on the screen would contain all your browser credentials. The cookie domains.log file would contain all your cookies, and obviously FTP VPN clients would be in those folders as well. So the malware developer and distributor kept quite an open front door in terms of communication. They each had their own Telegram profile, and basically anyone could initiate a conversation with them to buy the Baldr malware. It has become very common in cybercrime scene to do communication via Telegram or other means for the ease of use, and Telegram is also considered to be a secure platform for some reason. But obviously profiles could be reported, banned, or blocked, and using a little bit of social engineering, you could always get some extra information from the developer or the distributor. Baldr operations were also supported by a Telegram bot, which basically enabled any potential customer to buy the malware with cryptocurrency. One interesting thing was that the crypto addresses that were used to do the purchase were generated on the fly, so there were no traces or history to them. This bot was also removed at a certain point from Telegram, leaving Baldr operations unreliable. But All of these would be for nothing if it weren't for bulletproof hosting services. Usually we refer to hosting firms or companies as bulletproof when the service they provide allows their customers for considerable tolerance in terms of hosted content, and they achieve this tolerance by hosting clones of the malware on dozens of different IP addresses and switch the domain's DNS to point at different IPs frequently. We identified a few of these and named the top 3 on the right-hand side. These were myeno.ru, prohoster.biz, and ispsystem.ru. Baldr version 3.0 brought some advancements in terms of encrypting the C2 traffic. However, it's still very easy to spot some sort of regularity. The C2 data contains a section for the XOR key. It also has a separator, malware version number, and some additional server settings. Just to dig further down and understanding the C2 response a bit more, again, so the first 4 bytes are the XOR key. Then there's a 3-byte separator, which is followed by a 3 bytes version number. And after that is just server settings. Obviously, there will be some grabber rules, which I will detail just in about a minute. Using a simple decryption routine, we can easily decrypt the content. I wrote a small Python script to decrypt the C2 traffic. And obviously, now we have the plain text parameters. SOC or cert analysts could use these to write different detection rules, for example, in Yara or Suricata. The Baldr malware C2 servers have a very distinctive login forms. So in version 2.1, the login page had this interesting XAMPP form, as you can see on the right side. But version 3.0 brought some changes, and the developer turned to HTTP basic authentication. We suspect this was a move to make Baldr panels blend in between other sites, so automated scanners wouldn't be picking up on these highly distinctive login forms. Once you're past the login form, the first thing you'll see is the main dashboard. It's basically an aggregation view of all the logs collected by the C2 server. There's a breakdown section for top 3 countries and top operating systems. On the top menu bar, you also have the option to do some settings around the C2 server, do some search, convert some cookies, these sort of things. Once you're in the settings menu, you'll have the option to choose what kind of logs you want to collect from your victim's machine. It could be either cookies, autocomplete information, go for FTP if you want to, VPN, do the screenshot or not. And there's one thing on the bottom section. It's called grabber rules. These rules are specific rules which allow you to collect additional files from your target's machine. And as you can see on the screenshot, on this specific C2 server, the malware operator was trying to collect files from the desktop and the downloads folder as well. As the malware was mainly promoted on deep web forums, we had the chance to look through some of the conversations the developer or the distributor had. At one point, the distributor even claimed they had more than 200 clients, which is a customer base we should not ignore. On the 31st of May, Baldr's distributor released a short note, both on Telegram and both on deep web forums, that the malware's development would not continue. And it turns out it was because due to some internal rivalry between the distributor and the developer. I guess they couldn't agree how much money would they make from these cybercrime operations. The announcement came as a surprise for the Steelers customer base because they were expecting a new feature upgrade called version 4.0 on that day. However, Baldr's main distributor points new customers to another Steeler called Krypton. And this distributor basically names Krypton as the successor of Baldr. I think it's important to outline a couple of mistakes the developer or Baldr customers made that obviously allowed us to gain additional insights into the malware's operation. So first of all, these C2 servers were often misconfigured, leaving web folders wide open. Some of the C2 panels were using passwords like admin or admin123. Sometimes wrong file permissions made certain key files accessible. Some of the C2 servers even had other protocols like FTP, MySQL completely open and misconfigured, so those granted further access into the C2 server. These panels are often prone to local file inclusion or remote file inclusion, whichever is your style. All these would ultimately lead to having multiple web shells on a given server, leaving them to be some sort of wild west, where there's no clear standoff, but rather multiple script kiddies fighting for the victim data. And finally, I just wanted to give you a few lessons learned from dissecting the Steeler. These malware developers often take code from other malware families like Azerot, Vidar, RK. They even take code from Stack Overflow, which is kind of dodgy, or other coding forums, just to make the release of their malware faster. Evidently, they are lazy and prone to making mistakes, and that's where we analysts come in to find leaks, shortcuts. This piece of Steeler is not feature-rich, but it doesn't really have any persistence capabilities. It doesn't place any mutex on your system. It quickly gets what it was supposed to do. It is also interesting to observe how one piece of a Steeler inspires other malware families. Because with Baldr's demise, a new malware called Krypton has emerged now. That would be it. I'm not sure if you have any questions now. You can just raise your hand now or come here at the end of the talk and ask me some questions. I'm not trying to push it, but all right. That will be all. Thank you for listening to me. Yeah, so if you're interested, there's the full report of this malware. It's a 70-page report, details everything, every function, every feature. If you perhaps would like to check out my GitHub or Twitter accounts, I would appreciate it. I regularly post findings about new malware families and release new malware write-ups. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for being here and enjoy your SecT experience.